Hello guys, today I am going to show you how to host your website or web pages on Azure Cloud, right, for free. People might want to host their website on Azure for free just for the sake of displaying their personal resume or personal portfolio, or they want to create branding awareness for free, right? Who doesn't want to have free stuff, right, from Azure, right? So yeah, I will just straight away jump to the topics. What you will need for this tutorial. So first of all, you will need to have a GitHub account, and then you will need to have an Azure account with Azure subscriptions in your account as well. But don't worry, you don't have to pay for any of the things that I will show you after this because they're all completely free, right? And the third one, you will need to have a website, a web page. I'm sorry, a web page. The fourth things that you want to have is you need to have a custom domain, right? If you don't have any, don't worry. You can either use the paid domain provider services, or you can actually use a free one. I will show you how to use a free one in this video as well. All right. So make sure you have your web pages. Right now, I have my web pages here, right? Okay. So I have my web page here. Let's try to see. All right, I have index.html. All right, so this is my website, right? Okay, so but I don't want to host this locally, all right? Because I want other people from around the world to see my website, right? But if I want to host this on my local machine, it won't work, right? Because people are not going to see it. But yeah, for that, you will need to host your website on GitHub, right? Right now, I have my GitHub account here, right? This is my GitHub account. All right, and I'm going to create a new repository. Okay, and I'm going to create a new repository, which is named Hado. All right, and yeah, click on add on a readme file and click on create repository. Okay. All right, so right now we have our very first repository, right? And I'm going to add all of this, the content of this file into GitHub. All right, click on upload files, right? And copy all of these things. Just drag and drop from the folder to your GitHub repository. Okay. Just wait for the files to be uploaded one by one. Okay. All right. So we have 47 files. All right. So all of the files has been uploaded, right? But yeah, just click on commit changes. All right, it might take a few minutes to complete. Just wait for it. But yeah, I have all of the things, all of the web pages to be hosted in GitHub, right? I mean, the reason why I uploaded all of these web pages is that I don't want to pay for storage container in Azure, right? You can actually host your website on Azure using different method, which is using the storage container to contain your blob, your web blob, and then you could actually display all of your website content using the blob endpoint. But I don't want to use that because that will cost you some money, all right? Right. I want to make this as free friendly tutorial as possible, right? So we're just going to use GitHub since it's free, right? Okay, so we have done our file hosting on GitHub. So let's try to create a static web here. Static web app. We're going to create a new static web app instance. Yeah, name just I mean if you don't have any subscription, that is also fine. All right, you can actually like create a new subscription when you are creating your Azure account, right? So don't worry about that. All right, but let's say for example if I want to create a new resource group just for the sake of containing my static web apps resources, just click on what is it, huddle huddle one. All right, click on OK. Static web app details, just keep it simple, huddle one. All right, we have two hosting plan, which is a free plan and a standard plan, right? Let me try to see what is there for free plan and standard plan. All right, I do think that by using free plan, all right, you have all of the sufficient things that you need for hosting your web app. I mean, let's see here that we have 100 gig of bandwidth per subscription. As you can see here, the same goes to standard plan as well. All right, I do think that the free plan is sufficient enough for you guys to host your website for free, right? As for the sake of this tutorial, just click on free plan, right? And click on East Asia since I'm living in East Asia, right? And make sure to click on GitHub as your source of deployments, right? Because we have already hosted our files in GitHub. So yeah, we just want to work with that particular repositories for the sake of this tutorial, all right? And for the organization, click on Suzaira Shah, which is actually my user account, right? And for the repositories, click on Huddle. Huddle, right? What is the repository's name again? Yeah, Huddle. Click on Huddle and the main branch. We are going to commit changes to the main branch. Click on Review and Create. Just click on Create. All right, so it's validating. All right. Deployment is in progress. Right, click on Go to Resources to see your static web apps. All right, so Azure generate a URL for you guys. All right, so that you can actually access your website through this URL. Right, as of now, we don't actually, you know, host our website yet, right? Because it's not been linked apparently, right? As you can see here, your Azure static web app is live and waiting for your content. So how are we going to upload all of those contents to Azure static web app? So you will need to use the Visual Studio IDE, right? So right now, open your IDE. If you haven't downloaded yet, you can go to Microsoft's page and download VS Code. It's relatively free, right? And to work with Azure Static Web Apps, you will need to install your extension, all right? You'll need to have 3 extension for your for this tutorial. Okay. The first extensions that you want to install is Azure account, right? This extension will allow you to authenticate to your Azure Cloud using this extension, right? The second extensions that you want to install is Azure Resources, right? So this is very important if you want to see all of your resources on the cloud. You will need this, right? And very important extensions that you need to install is this extension, Azure Static Web Apps. This extension will let you create an Azure Static Web Apps directly from your IDE, right? So yeah, make sure you have all of these extensions installed, and then you will need to authenticate to your GitHub account, all right, in order for us to actually clone your working repositories, all right, to the IDE, so that you can work with that particular workspace, right? And then after that, you will need to be authenticated to Azure, right? You'll just need to, I mean, since I have already authenticated through this IDE, so I don't need to do that anymore. But yeah, you can actually authenticate to all of these accounts in order to start working with the tutorial, right? Okay, if all of the things have already been set up, right, just click on F1 and click on this particular settings, right? All right, so right now I don't have any Git project open, right? So I want to clone project from GitHub, all right, because my web pages have already been hosted on GitHub, right? Click on clone project on GitHub, okay, and type in the repository name that we have earlier, right? So if I'm mistaken, it's called Suzarisha slash huddle. Yeah, this one, right? Click on this one. All right, and I'm going to create a new. I'm going to create uh, a new folder. Huddle one. Select repository location. All right. Okay. So GitHub will actually clone your repositories to your workspace. Okay. All right. As you can see here, we have our workspace environment here. You can actually edit your website directly from your IDE, right? Okay. So I believe that we have already prepared our website, right? So just go to Huddle one, right, and copy this URL, and we should be able to view our website, right? Yeah. So right now I have my website up and running on Azure Cloud, right? And let's say, for example, if I want to commit changes to this particular text, I don't want this marketing agency. I want it to be Docker engineer. Let's say, for example, right? Because I am a Docker support engineer, right? So I want to change this, right? We can actually do that directly from your Visual Studio Code, right? Just click on the index.html, right, and find for marketing agency because we don't want marketing agency, right? Okay. All right. So this one. So I want to change it as Docker support engineer, right? Click on save, and yeah, you can see that the source control tab here is doing something, right? So this is the uncommitted changes that we have on GitHub, right? And we want to commit it to the main branch, right? So click on the check button here to commit your, to commit your changes to the main branch, right? I'll say that this is my first commit. Click on enter, right? And click on sync changes. All right. Okay, so the changes should be reflected here. All right, but it will take a few minutes for it to change actually. Yeah, it will take a few minutes to change. All right, but In the meantime, I don't want to focus on these things alone. All right. I want to like change this URL to be my custom domain. I want my domain to be displayed here instead of this random generated URL by Azure, right? Because somehow I want to create brand awareness. I want people to know that I own this website, right? That you can actually make it memorable so that they can easily access our website later in the future, right? We can actually do that, right, by adding custom domains, right? So yeah, if you don't have any domains, all right, don't worry, you don't need to have a paid one. You can actually find a free one from freenom.com, all right? So right now I have freenom.com. Here I am at the freenom.com website. All right, you can actually find your desired domain here, right? Okay, just going to click on register new domain and find my new domain. Let's say I want to name my website hadel1.ml, right? Check the availability. This is going to take a few minutes. All right. Um, all right. So right now, hadel1.ml is available for free, right? Let's check out this domain, right? And I want to retain this domain for up to 1 month, one out of 1 year. I'm sorry, right? And click on continue to proceed with this process, proceed with this checkout, and click on complete order. All right, it's taking quite a long time, right? All right, just click here to go to my client area. Just click on my domains. Yeah, hadel1.ml is basically registered here. So click on manage domain. All right. So the reason why I use freenom.com is that I don't want to pay for the domain. But if you have the luxury to pay for a domain, then you can use the paid one, right? I don't want to use this. I don't want to keep all of my DNS record here because it is very unsecured. Okay, and basically sometimes this is based on my experiences using freenom.com. They randomly flush away all of your DNS record, right? I don't want that to happen, right? So we can actually keep our DNS record using this domain on Azure, right? So I'm going to show you how, right? So first of all, we can create our DNS zones, right? Click on DNS zones, right? DNS zones, and then we are going to create a new one, okay, with Huddle1 resource group, all right, and the name is huddle1.ml, right? Okay, and click on review and create. Validation pass, click on create. All right, so right now you have your DNS zone deployed. Just go to resources to see what is inside of the name server. All right, so right now you can see that we have some of the DNS record configured by default. Right, please don't tinker around with all of these settings because it will make your DNS record to be quite catastrophic. So since I don't want to keep my DNS record here, right, I'm going to change the name server. I don't want to use the name servers from freenom.com. All right, I'm going to use these name servers from Microsoft Azure. Right, so just copy and paste this value from Azure to freenom.com. Okay. The third one, right, and the fourth one. All right. I guess that is all. Click on change name server. It's taking quite long to load, isn't it? All right, but yeah, you can see here the DNS record is quite empty, right? Because we don't actually configure that yet. But let's wait for this this to load, right? I believe that the changes, I believe that the changes that I made earlier has already been reflected. Let's try to refresh this website. It's taking long. All right, so right now the changes has already been reflected, all right, directly from my VS Code IDE, right? So this is very, um, if you want to edit some of your content of your website, you can actually do that here. All right, so I think that the change has already been made. All right, so right now it looks like all of the changes has been made, right? And my website also up and running smoothly right now, right? So yeah, we can actually set up the custom domain to our static web app. All right, just go to Azure Static Web App. All right, and we can click on our static web app instance. Click on custom domains, and we can add our custom domain on Azure DNS because we have already configured all of the things that we already need on Azure DNS, right? Okay, click on domain name, www.huddle1.ml, right? Huddle1.ml. All right, and click on add. So what this is going to do is that it will create a DNS record, a CNAME DNS record to point this URL, all right, to huddle1.ml, right? It's going to take a few minutes for the DNS to propagate, right? So after this, you will be able to access your website using your custom domain instead of using this randomly generated URL, right? But you can see here in the DNS zones, right? In the DNS zone, the CNAME record is created here, right? It is automatically created for you, right? So yeah, just wait for it to propagate. Just wait for the DNS to propagate. All right, it seems that the DNS has been propagated and we can close this down. All right. All right, so for housekeeping, I would like to add another one. All right, custom domain from DNS. Click on huddle1.ml alongside with, yeah, alongside with the www.huddle1.ml. This is not really important, but just for the sake of housekeeping, I want my website to be accessible throughout the global internet. I'll need to do this step to ensure that, right? All right, yeah. Right now, our website is up and running, right? Instead of using this URL, you can actually use this URL to view our website as well, right? Let's try again. Yeah, should be okay. All right. So click on close. Yep, we should have to custom in here. And I'm going to set this as default. All right, so yeah, so that is all the steps that you should do in order for you to host your website for free on Azure. All right. If you have any questions relating to the steps that I took in order to prepare this tutorial for you, feel free to reach out to me. And thank you so much for watching. Um, and bye bye.